Wow, our final episode with Rae Bonney. I always say the same thing, but I miss it. I miss when the episode comes to an end. I have to let the guest go into the mist, the abyss. Anyway, today we're going to explore her vision for the future, including her upcoming book and continued advocacy work in mental health. So important. It's just interesting, so fascinating. So stay tuned with Rae Bonney here for the final part here on Leading Our Own Way, and please go and press subscribe. How's Rae looking? You painted a picture before with your previous partner, how you were in that relationship. Were you the same person in this new relationship, or had Rae developed, changed?
I had developed and changed, but there was still elements of that abandonment stuff. And I think my unreasonable standards, my unreasonable demands were just not achievable for myself or for anyone that was going to be with me. So, yeah, I was working it out. And I think, a university degree when you're studying human condition gives you lots of different insights into stuff, especially things like, intergenerational trauma and things like that, which were really insightful. Those internal family systems, that was really powerful. And just some of the, the behavioral diagnoses also really made sense, especially things like attachment theory and abandonment, which really relates to a lot of what I experience. Really made sense. But so that's when, I finished university, and that's when I started private practice and started practicing. And that's led to where we are now, sort of 16 years later.
So, and I normally do this part at the beginning, and it's made sense to do it this way, if I'm honest. What do you mainly focus on today? What would you say your role is, your job? What title would you give yourself?
I don't have a title. I just have a name, which is my name.
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to find me, just Google my name. That's the name of my business.
Yeah.
It's my email address. It's everything, because I don't know. There's no real title, because I guess what I do is a whole range of things that lead to one thing.
Yeah.
So my primary objective really is to stop men killing themselves. And everything that stems from that is enormous. So in advocacy, as I mentioned, I'm the vice chair of Global Action on Men's Health. So, we work with all countries of the world, with governments, with policymakers all around the world to create better lives for men and boys through research, relationships. And I've been on that board for, I think, 2 years now. And then I'm also on the board of the Australian Men's Health Forum. We're the peak body for men's health here in Australia. Do very similar things around advocacy, policy making. And, anyone that knows me knows that I'm pretty active on social media in educating people around what the state of men and boys' health is like here in Australia.
Yeah.
And I've been on that board for about 8 years. I have a radio show with 94.1 FM, 3WBC, and I've been there for about 10 years, I think. So my show interviews men, particularly from all over the world, asking my question, what does it feel like being you today? So I'm also an ambassador for Beyond Blue. So anyone that's listening in from around the world, Beyond Blue is, the biggest mental health charity here in Australia, also one of the biggest in the world, that does amazing research into mental health and has really put a lot of stuff on the map. I was very lucky to be involved. Back in 2014, they did world first research into the return on investment strategy for mental health in the workplace here in Australia. And, I was part of that engagement team, and for the first time involved in research and data to create reasons why we need to be addressing mental health in the workplace. And a lot of that still resonates today, 11 years on. So that's when I first started public speaking back in 2014.
Yeah.
with Beyond Blue. So I'm very grateful for what they gave me, and the stage they gave me. So that was something that was really amazing. So Beyond Blue, that was a really significant part in being able to go out into the world with evidence-based data to be able to have conversations in workplaces. And at that time, Rory was now one, and an agency, a recruitment agency, picked me up, but with the intention of me creating a mental health offering, so for workplaces, which was really, really cool. Nobody was really talking about this at the time, so I started with them and started building mental health workshops for workplaces. And so I was very, very grateful to them that they backed me, they paid me to do this. So I was able to sort of, keep managing my family, and, make this stuff up as I was going. So now I'm going into workplaces, and I created, with the help of an amazing organisational psychologist who put framework around all of my thoughts, we created some really cool workshops.
Oh,
and
nice.
they took off really well. So now I'm speaking with Beyond Blue, I'm delivering mental health workshops, and at the same time, I'm also, doing the board work, the radio work, and I kicked off some work with Movember as well at the time, and delivered their world first address to suicide prevention. So did a program for them and launched that all over, their key markets, which was a big deal at the time. And I was very proud of that work too. And, but Movember have done amazing things in terms of men's health here in Australia and around the world too. So then I'm thinking more about moving out on my own. So it got to about 2018, and my daughter Rose, a scary Rose, said, "Drop the mic, Mum, get out, you're on your own." And so I had to pretty much do that. So I was already sort of working partly on my own and partly still with the agency. So yeah, that's when I went completely out on my own. So, where you see me today is, part of my business is public speaking. So I speak all over the world at conferences, events, workplaces, about either mental health in the workplace or men's health, or a combination. I do a lot of policy and strategy development in workplaces. So, we're very lucky here in Australia that we have very good governance around health and safety through our, Work Safe, Safe Work, Fair Work Commission, the law. We do it very well, I think. So in terms of psychosocial hazards and risks, I get very involved in that end of things, and helping organisations understand what their responsibility is, and really taking the fear out of it, and normalising and simplifying that. It's an organisational responsibility to create environments that support good mental health, safety and well-being. But, conversely, it's the employee's responsibility to manage their own self. So,
Agree.
I work very strongly with that accountability attitude in workplaces. So most workplaces for me are mostly male, high risk, heavy industry, blue collar. So manufacturing, mining, shipping, logistics, transport. If somebody kills themselves in the workplace, I get called in to do all the crisis management, and just holding space for people while they move through that trauma. And then generally I'll stay on to, do work one-on-one with people, leaders, individuals, whatever that might be. So I have some I have some beautiful clients that I work with. And yeah, I think that might even be it.
Well, you answered my next question. Really, I was going to ask you why would a workplace, what type of things do they look for from you to come in, and so you answered that beautifully. And do you ever find? I mean, there's a lot of like you mentioned, a lot of heavy places, building, transport, the big type of. Is it engineering, more like the engineering, the big heavy workloads? sorry, that was a question, and I'm answering my own question. Do you ever find any issues with, do leadership ever bring you in because they need support themselves,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's a
not
big
just
part,
the
it's a big part
employees,
of
but
what
the
I do.
leadership? Sorry,
Yeah.
Rae.
Big part of what I do, especially around boundaries.
Yeah.
And boundaries are important in anyone's world, really, especially when we are either help seeking or help giving. Help is a dangerous thing unless boundaries are in place. And you find in leadership that boundaries can often get blurred for people who are high on the care and high on the empathy. But it doesn't keep them safe. So leaders can often find themselves in hot water when they're over caring, oversharing, and not focused on what the obligation of their role is. So I do a lot of work around that with leaders to give them permission to care, but to care with boundaries that keep them safe. Because I think we're still at a place in organisations where we make these assumptions that leaders get paid to deal with everyone's crap. No, they don't. They get paid to do a job, not to deal with everyone's crap. So
Yeah, and that's an interesting perspective, because I wasn't actually looking at it from that side. I was probably more looking at, like, not that they're ever going to admit that they're a dictatorship, but my experience as leaders, because I was bullied by a leader, my line leader. Do you ever have to give advice regarding bullying in the workplace, or bullying from another colleague, or bullying from a leader themselves? Do you ever deal with anything like that in terms of mental health?
firstly, I never give advice and I never help. They're two things that I don't do.
Yeah.
That keeps me self. That's my boundary on
That's your
things. But I
boundary.
do, through experience and through, all of this, the research and study that I do, help people make sense of things and provide options and insights and different lenses in which to look at things. So when working with, say, bullies, I don't think anyone is a victim or anyone's a perpetrator. Everyone has an experience of life that causes behaviours that are unbecoming. So I will always sit with company policy, which is generally clear, and that sits next to work safe work, fair work commission and the law. So that's the framework I work within. So if there's behaviours that are, say, look like bullying, find out what's going on first. And, generally organisations I work with have very good processes and procedures and levers that do very respectful investigations to understand a situation before any of that's ever bandied around. And I think that's something where we're, through that original research with Beyond Blue, right through to developing legislation around policies that companies now have to keep their people safe. It's not kind of carrot and stick stuff. This is more about how do we actually just create these environments that are safe. You look at when babies are born, we wrap them up tight, we put them in high chairs, we put them in prams, we put them in car seats to keep them contained and keep them safe. That's what we need to be doing in workplaces with people. And if the rules are clear and fair and equitable, then people will feel safe.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, couldn't have said anything better myself.
Science.
No, I say that. I mean, I've not looked at it from the angles that you mentioned before, but you're right. It's very logical, isn't it? Isn't rocket science. Well, look, let's go to my three final questions then, because I've learned a lot and you're inspiring and I love what you do. I love what you stand for. And we came across each other on LinkedIn and I had to look a little bit further when we popped up. I can't remember if I reached out to you or if you reached out to me, but it seems like we've got quite... I
listened to a podcast of yours when I was washing the car one day.
Oh.
Connie Paglioni, is that right?
Paglienti.
And I really enjoyed it. And I believe in my vision of how kindness and care are two very important things. If I like something that somebody's done, I'll always make the effort to reach out and tell them. And I really enjoyed that. So I told you that.
Thank you. That was very kind. Yes, I do remember.
All the effort I put into thanking you and you can't remember.
As soon as you said it, it clicked. Now I'm going to go red. I hope you've enjoyed sharing your journey with me, Rae. But before you do go, if anyone's aligned with your story, the personal end of it, or even just mental health, mental fitness as a whole, men or women, what pieces of advice could you give to those that maybe can connect with your journey in professionally and the personal sense of your journey?
I would say to most people, don't assume anything about anyone.
Yeah.
Ever.
Agree.
Be curious. And the other thing that I would say is that when we're listening, you listen to respond, don't listen to react. And if you think about that, you'll know what I mean.
You said that on the interview that I did listen to, and I've used that 3 times. My son is being bullied at school, and I used those, I did quote unquote from you to the principal on the phone the other day. I'm not lying to you. Wednesday, I was on the phone to him, and I used your quote.
Wow, does get in.
I did. I love that. I always use the term in school so kids can understand it, putting space between the stimulus and the response. So there's a gap between the reaction to, from the point of where it's stimulated to the response, but yours is easier for me to explain, and it's just so powerful. And I said it to my second example is I shared it with a group of year sixes that I was teaching yesterday, and it's an area that's quite it's a trauma-informed background where their home life isn't the easiest, let's say, and they come to school very, high on anger and fear, and it's obviously coming from fear. They don't feel safe at home. They come to school and they feel safe, and that's where they feel safe to let loose and react to their friends and sometimes it can be unsafe for them and the people they're reacting to. And we had a big discussion around it, and that's when I used the quote again. So there you go. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I know you said 3, but I've got one more. And I was thinking about it when I was speaking about, raising kids, and especially Rose, when she was 15. Something I learned that's really powerful is when raising children, or when people are thinking they're wanting to help somebody, it's not your job to make your kids into who you want them to be. It's your job to help them into who they already are. And that's like anyone at all, that, when you look at somebody through somebody else's lens and you're not assuming anything about them, you will see a whole different perspective. If you're going to be supporting somebody, it's about providing options and it's about listening. But if you're starting any sentences with you need to, you should, you have to, you'll be going down the wrong path.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of that. I've used that when people come to me and we talk about, the brain, or we talk about choices. I've said, oh, well, you need to look at doing this and all that. And I've tried to reframe over the last few months in doing that. So very powerful advice for me too. So thank you. Future plans, Rae. I always ask this because I want the viewers to understand that it's not the end of the journey for anybody. It's always ongoing. We're living on this journey until the point that we leave. And even then afterwards, we leave a legacy. What are your future plans, Rae?
Well, every day is a future plan. So every day I make sure I learn something new that's going to be either valuable to me, somebody else, or both. I'm writing a book at the moment. So
put it here for you, if I can. I'll put it here on the shelf once it's out.
Yep. So I'm hoping, I don't know how long that's going to take it. So I've sort of got an ETA of next year. So that's my big focus. And we still don't have a Minister for Men's Health in Australia. So maybe that's something. But I'm also planning a holiday to South America next April as well. And I feel that travel is something that's not about holidaying. It's about, broadening your mind and your experiences. So I, always wanting to go out into big places in the world to see what it feels like being other people living in very different environments. So for that, I'll continue what I'm doing. I'm always refining what I do. And, but really at the end of the day, as I said, stopping men from killing themselves, I can't stop that. But if I can be there to hold space and show different options and different pathways, well, then I'm happy to do that every day of the week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautifully said. Well, you've answered my final question. That's your purpose, isn't it? If you can put it into a one-liner then, a simple one-liner for the viewers to take away, how could we do that? How could you put that into a one-liner?
I think I just did.
Yeah, I think you just did. I'm asking you to rephrase it, aren't I? No, it was beautiful. It was the perfect way. Thank you for the work you do, Rae. It's beautiful, it's awesome, it's powerful, it's inspiring, and I suppose you might have the same philosophy as me. If we can just help one person, whether it's a day, a week, or a month, we're making change, and it's all about going to the root cause and let's change the trajectory, not just of one person, but community and society, the world going forward. So we don't tell those stats or whatever they may be, because I don't know the official stats, and that's actually what I did want to ask you. But if we can reduce those stats over time, whilst we're there, is there any official stats? Well, there is official stats, but is there any stats that you can reel off that we can take away with us?
I try to stay away from them only because I think it distorts the simplicity of being kind and being caring, and the impact that we can have on human beings to make change. And a lot of the things I do post, especially around men's health, we have to use statistics to reinforce objectives around getting better support, a better framework, better policies for men's health. But ultimately, that just creates friction in that people want to challenge statistics. And I said to somebody the other day, we'll just put all that in the bin. Men are dying at a rate of knots for largely preventable causes. So, let's stop that. Really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you don't have to know the stats. I mean, if you're alive and breathing and can string a sentence together, you know that preventable male death is an issue.
Yeah.
And do you know what somebody said to me the other day? It's because they're stupid and they should just be, I can't remember exactly, but it was basically men are just stupid and are risk takers, and they just need to stop it.
That's on them.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, great attitude to have. Stay away from that person.
Yes.
Thank you, Rae. You're leading your own way, and I know you will have helped a lot of people from just sharing the information that you've shared, and it's inspiring. So hopefully somebody can listen and just take it away with them. Thank you so much. To everybody else who's tuning in, I hope you've enjoyed our conversation with Rae Bonney. Go and check her out. All the information will be in the show notes. I'll put it all in there for everybody to get. And it's okay to contact you if they need to, Rae.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Through website, through email. And Andrew, thank you for you as well, and what you're doing so gallantly. And as you said before, it's not completely comfortable for you, but you're pushing the boat out, and you're going to find some fish down there, and you're going to make sure they're safe. So that's really commendable.
I'm trying. Definitely trying. Thank you, Rae. That was very, very nice. I appreciate it. I'm sweating now. Not anxiety, but thank you, Rae. Well, to everybody else, please come back next week for another amazing guest, another inspiring journey, and keep leading your own way until then. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us this week. It's been absolutely incredible. Thank you to Rae Bonney. You're incredible. And I know you will all take pieces away from Rae and be able to think about it differently, or just incorporate something into your own life. Don't forget to please subscribe and join us next week for another inspiring story and journey here on Leading Our Own Way. Make sure you're thinking about how you're leading your own way, and if you are leading your own way, what can we do to achieve that mindset? Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening and watching Leading Our Own Way. So we can stay together forever and share more incredible journeys, please subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss next week's episode and what that amazing guest has to offer to the world. Please support Leading Our Own Way, and we'll get you on next week's episode.